that was exactly what MVL did. Move rook b8, prepping something based on knight takes d4, e5, because pawn on e4 is vulnerable, but I'm kind of confused by the move rook b8.
No, that is definitely b5 at one point or the other, and this Najdorf is possible. We are seeing this g6 in the Najdorf, especially when white is sort of losing its opportunity to long castle with a move a4 and move number 6, what we've seen in this game. You're not going to go long castle, so we're only going to see short castle from white, and that is very important because that's when black wants to play g6. Whenever I was playing the dragon myself, I was so happy whenever I was seeing these quiet systems with bishop to e2, short castle. I knew that I'm very close to equalizing, and this is exactly what we're seeing from MVL. He is not a dragon player, but he knows that in certain nuances in the Najdorf, he can transition into a dragon, and he feels very comfortable doing so.
Okay, cool. The bishop e2, I've kind of thought of these as the Nottingham variation from Nottingham, England, and white oftentimes plays with a dollop of poison based on the move f2, f4. Now in this case, Vichy has parted with his light square bishop in order to dominate over the b6 square. Vichy is one of those players, one of those very rare players at the elite level who is more than willing to trade off his two bishops for a knight, and he has proven over the many decades of the rightness of his perspective as he's scored very well. Here he has one of those typical positions where it is a case of a knight versus bishop, but usually you do want to take away the two bishops from your opponent. So I see this move at f2, f3 as a move that preps bishop h6, and I was dead wrong. The queen being on c4, maybe queen b4 with the idea of rook takes c3, a very standard exchange sacrifice. Yeah, I was about to say the queen on c4 doesn't feel right. Steps back with queen c7, does MVL, and as you said, queen f2 preps bishop d4. In this particular case, maybe bishop takes f6 and knight d5 could be considered a threat, but again, c2 is hanging.
I do have to say that queen on f2 doesn't make a very good impression on me. I'm still trying to wrap my head around exactly why f2 is better on that d2, because you could have put that bishop on d4 with a queen on d2 as well. There's absolutely no drawback to that.
And now we see perhaps what Vichy had in mind. Again, he's potentially he's looking for a knight to c4 to b6 maneuver, and
I do think that knight c4, knight to b6 is the landing square, because that's going to take away that beautiful square on a semi-open file from the rook on c8. Also, the knight from b6 is potentially going to watch that square d5 and potentially land on it.
Well, now that the pawn is on a5, there's no b7, b5 breaks for black in the position, so black is going to have to rely on e6, d5 and or e5, d5. It's very hard to get in both e5 as well as d5, because any e5 move is going to precipitate bishop to b6, which controls d8 and doesn't let you play for d5. So I see Vichy's strategy as being one of restraint. That basically what Vichy is going to say is, I put my pawn on a5, so you have no queenside breaks. I'm going to put my knight on e3, so you're going to have no central breaks. You don't want to play d5 with the knight on e3. I can play e5 and f4. You don't want to play e5 and d5, because e5 will give up control over the d5 square. So restraint, in the words of Aaron Nimzovich, restraint, blockade, destroy. And by the way, knight on e3 might look like a certain it takes a long time to get the knight to b6, but without the move bishop b5, one day knight c4 and knight d6 lands with tempo. Queen h4 hitting the knight. We do see this trade of the bishop. Could have done this a long time ago with bishop h6. So, but no harm, no foul. I mean, It's taken Vichy a while to get his pieces to the squares that he wants, but he's getting them there. Rook d4, queen d2, king h1, knight g4. These are all moves that I'd have on my agenda as white, and I say I've got the game under control. So again, I'm looking at rook d4, took, and playing just c3. I'm thinking that the trade kind of leaves black a bit. I'm not sure I like this knight c3 takes b5 trade by Vichy, but he did double up the pawns.
I have to agree with you on that one, Yasser, because specifically that pawn on a5 becomes a bit of a target now. Rook to from c8 to a8 potentially be a move, and then if white is forced to play the move b4, defending that pawn on a5, then that pawn on c3 is just going to be a weakness forever. And to be honest, that knight on c3 was almost acting as a plug on c5.
Exactly,
it was
it
just
completely
killing black's play on that file. That bishop on b5 wasn't doing much.
No,
so
exactly. The bishop b5 wasn't bothering anyone.
this trade is a bit intriguing and mysterious.
Okay, queen to c5. I think this must be a black queen on c5. Sometimes on these DGT boards, when you do play quickly, the piece doesn't land.
Maybe we can see the bird eye view so that we
squarely on
know where the queen is.
Yeah, so queen c5, not queen e3. Ah, that's what happened. The queen e3, queen d4 got registered, Howard. So we think that there's a black queen on c5.
Maybe we can see the bird eye view of the position right now.
Hard to see.
So there was an exchange on
Of
c5.
queens. So we go back to this position, and we believe it was queen takes c5, d takes c5, knight to e3, knight to d3. I think we have an up-to-date position.
Well, I have to say, the past 5 moves have been definitely favorable for black. That knight on d3 looks beautiful.
I think, okay, my board is frozen at the moment.
We're just going to watch the bird's eye view, I think.
Exactly.
We're going to see b4 right now, defending that pawn on a5. You cannot take en passant because that knight on d3 is just going to fall. Wait a minute, can you take en passant?
That's the question, and he's stopping to think about it, and now Vichy is thinking as well. Hold on,
I don't think you can, because you have
takes, rook takes, b2, rook d1, rook takes a5,
knight to c2. That stops me in your tracks.
b7, b6, and Vichy says, okay, you've got a great knight on d3, and I've got to get rid of it. I think that's exactly what he's done now. Black, I think, is for choice as he gets in this very important move, rook a3, seizing the initiative, and I think Vichy has to get his rook initiative as well with rook to d7 with the intention of rook b7. We played it. Now if the rook doubles on the 7th, king h1 and rook g1 will be Vichy's answer, king h2. I didn't like king h2 because of that move. Rook takes f3. I think the king on h1 would not have made rook f3 possible.
And we can see a cup by Viswanathan Anand. He realizes that that pawn was not supposed to be lost.
Exactly. He stopped him in his tracks. He could have played king h1, and he would have had a very, very easy time of it. Now he's fighting for a draw, frankly. Rook takes c3.
23 seconds for MVL, 48 seconds for Viswanathan.
And rook g2. Now it's all about rook takes f7 check. He can, and he's done it. King h6, and you can go back. Rook g1, and I think
that might have been the saving grace for Vichy.
Yes, exactly. Fortunate enough, but
it is not over yet.
Nope. MVL still for choice, as he is.
One pawn up.
One pawn up. That's an important move. H5, H4 basically locks in Black's king, and it keeps the his rook on g1. Ooh, c3, really? If that was necessary? No, I think it's just a draw.
It is not that easy.
I think it's a
Rook to g4.
Easy
That
draw.
is an important move.
Because now the rook on g1 can be released for active duties.
But
Unless Vishy wants to play king h1 and g3.
Yes, sir. That e1 is still.
It exists. I don't disagree. I mean,
Leaves the outpost on g4, decides to activate the other c5.
that's a very surprising decision. Vishy is thinking that his rook on g1. I thought the rook on g4 would be better suited, more active defender. Vishy has a different perspective. But, okay, now he can just trade rooks, and that's an easy. Wow.
He decides not to.
Okay.
He must know something that we don't.
Exactly. Pass pawns must be pushed.
I really thought that it was much better to exchange one pair of rooks, but
For me, there was no question about it. E3. He did not choose to play E3. He could have gotten his pawn. By the way, breaking news as Nepo has lost his game
against Anish Giri.
Ooh, that's
He's on
a huge
1 point
score.
behind him right now.
Anish was and
In a
look at
must-win
this,
situation.
King G3.
Oh my goodness,
And
what is happening there?
Vishy is really giving his opponent fantastic opportunity.
20 seconds for Vishy, 10 seconds for MVL.
I'm afraid that something like G4 might be winning now.
And he's going for it.
Yeah, I'm afraid that this could be a winning. And you go rook to F2. I thought he was going to go rook to F2. Why didn't he go rook to F2?
No, we're going to see a copy.
The idea of G4 was to keep the king so that it's protected. You could go rook F2, king to F4, king to F4. Okay, maybe the crisis is suddenly past. Because once again, Vishy can go check and get into a single rook ending that.
Let's get a roof off the board.
No.
No, Vishy says.
Again, keeping 4 rooks on the board, in my view. Look at that.
Wait a minute. Isn't that a
Takes
pawn?
G2.
What was that?
Seriously?
Wait a minute. That's check.
Check.
Check again. No. Don't have anything really. What?
Whoa, somebody's playing for a win? Is Vishy really playing for a win?
No.
No.
There's
Okay.
nobody's playing for a win.
Okay. Wow. Sorry about that my board got frozen, but okay, we really had a mix at the end, and for Vishy, he dodged a bullet a little bit there.
No, absolutely, he did, but he was he was playing very courageous, I have to say. It didn't feel like he was in trouble, at least emotionally, at any point in the game, and that is one of his biggest strengths. He's so stoic. He just looks like nothing will affect him in